Hello and welcome back to Blood and Ashes. This is episode 84. I'm your host Mo, and I'm joined once again by my first sisters, Willie.
Oh, that's upgraded.
I am the sister.
And Jody.
Hello, guys.
Great, okay, so you guys are going to keep those voices up the whole episode.
Yes, from now on.
Of course I can. I can speak my high-pitched voice for ages.
Oh, God, I hope not.
Okay, are you guys ready for book 9?
I am.
Yeah, it's on, like really on. It's going.
Not like Donkey Kong. More than that.
I'm still riding the high from book 8. I am super excited for book 9. I know we keep saying that all the time, but it is especially true now that we are wading right into it. And in preparation of this book, and with all of our preconceived ideas of what it's going to be about, you know, all the trudging through the snow and stuff, I quickly went and had a look at the fandom wiki for Winter's Heart to see just how much of the book is actually Perrin and Aiel trudging through the snow or dealing with the Shido. Like how much of the story is dedicated to that.
Don't ruin it for me. Like I want to deal with that trudging and that snow. I want to feel it. Like I'm in the middle of winter. It's raining. It's Melbourne. Like I just want to be struggling like a mental slog through the snow.
Okay, well then I've got good news for you because
Damn.
the first 6 chapters are all Perrin and Aiel.
Yeah. I've read up to
Whoa.
chapter 3.
But that's it.
Yeah?
It's
That's it.
the slog. 6 chapters.
According to the fandom wiki, that's it. Perrin has the 4th most word count in terms of point of view, and Aiel 5th.
But he doesn't save her in this book. So we have to... The more trudging is the next book.
Probably, yes. Yes. So while that arc feels like a lifetime, we are actually shielded from most of it in this book.
So you're saying that we could technically do 1 episode and that's the trudging done?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah. Who would you guess has the most point of view? Since I've got the sheet up now with all the numbers, I want to just go through this fun little exercise.
Elayne.
Elayne. This is Elaine's book.
We're
Correct. 10 podcast points to both of you. Elaine's got 24.3% of the point of view. So, I mean, like almost
And
a
then
quarter
Rand?
of the book is Elayne. No, here comes a pleasant surprise. Matt,
Matt's
Oh.
back, baby.
Yeah.
21%.
Like that.
This book is going to be awesome.
It's going to be great, right? And then third is Rand at 13%. So now it drops down quite a bit. So it's a lot of between Elayne and Matt. It's almost half the book. Then it's Rand at 13%, and then Perrin at 8.5%, and Aiel at
See?
4.8%.
We've already proven that this is a great book. Like, let's
Totally.
just read it.
Job
This is
done.
why I thought I'd bring this up.
My sort of perception of going into just the prologue
Mhm.
is that it is just an absolute continuation of where we left off. There's no catching up. We are
Mhm.
literally in chapters following on in different point of views from the other. It's like there's no break.
Yeah.
There's just flow.
Yeah.
So for me, there's like, okay, cool. This is where we were. I loved where we were.
Totally.
And I'm loving where this is going,
Mhm.
especially the very big section about becoming first sisters. Yeah, I'm stealing some of your stuff, Joe. What are you going to do?
Nothing, apparently.
And I mentioned that in the previous episode, Aiel. Like, I mean, specifically, Seaine and those guys are like, it's a couple hours after they trap Toveine in the lie, right? Like when she doesn't want to swear.
I mean, we pretty much dealing with things that happened on the day of events of the previous book. So there's not even people had time to raise some chickens and sleep off the
No,
hangover
grow a
after a
beard.
feast day beer or grow a beard or something. It's like cool. We literally going on where we were.
Yeah, it's super exciting. Okay, so then on that note, let's take one quote-unquote final look back at the Path of Daggers in everyone's favorite segment called Callbacks. Right. The fluted black rod Villy was used in Tanchico by Seaine Cade, not Falion.
Yeah.
Remember, we read Falion's name. We're like, oh, where do we see? She was part of that group, obviously, but it was Seaine. We only see Falion again in the last battle, apparently. So,
that's
where
a long
she
absence.
dies horrifically. Please tell me she dies horrifically.
Probably.
Probably. I think so. Actually, that's not a given. Quite a few of these people get away or are with fates uncertain, undocumented.
Well,
We can write our own fanfic, Joe.
Millie Skank makes it all the way to the end and she doesn't die.
I know.
Willie Seaine, I would correct you, and she's a deftly player of life.
I corrected
So,
her name already. It's
Give
done.
that to her.
Good for you, Vil, sticking up for your friends.
You have to, man. Like, come on. You cannot have a discussion when everyone just hates on the same topic. Then it sounds like the news.
I mean,
You
there's
have
three
to
of
have
us.
Yes.
a robust agreement and disagreement about everyone has got good in them inherently, even the bad people.
Okay, wow.
I mean,
Hot
they
take
get
from
up and
Villy.
have tea and they have breakfast and they have feelings, souls and stuff.
Tea and breakfast? Absolved.
Toast with honey. I mean, they don't
I had
eat
coffee,
dirt
so-
on their toast.
Jesus.
Except the
No.
Trollocs. I mean,
How did
they
we
eat
get
dirt.
here?
Going. I have no idea. I was just thinking, we are three of us, so like 33% of the world are dark friends, apparently. So the ratio is pretty good for our podcast.
That's
Well,
true.
if we were going by the tower statistics, it probably had to be two of us that were
Yeah,
dark
the two
friends.
of us. So it's either Moritz and I.
Oh yeah, well one of you's maybe on the sly.
Maybe one of us is teetering. Okay, let's get this train back on the tracks. It was me that speculated that maybe Aemlyn was Morgase's friend that she exiled while Gabriel was there, you know, sort of like turned on her hard, but it wasn't Aemlyn. Okay, bear with me here. I'm going to be throwing out more Andoran noble names here, but it was Elorian and not Aemlyn. That was Morgase's friend. She also asked Morgase, like she questioned one of Morgase's decisions, and Morgase had her flogged quite publicly. Villy, you were right.
That was
That was
bad.
what? You want to say that again?
Shouldn't
out
have
loud?
done that.
End of podcast. What did you want to say, Joe?
Yeah, don't flog your friends publicly. That was bad. A
Yeah.
bad choice.
No. They'll remember that.
Hey,
Kinda
if
sticks
you ask
around.
me, I think every now and then someone deserves a public flogging. Like,
Oh yeah.
imagine if public flogging was still a thing, politicians would behave a lot better.
I mean, that is true.
Mm,
But who would decide whether they get flogged or not?
Well, clearly me.
themselves.
Put a pin in it. Let's try and get through the callbacks before we completely derail ourselves again. Villy, you were right. Rain in Spain stays mostly in the plain is from My Fair Lady. But then you also said that the maidens are getting pretty slack at keeping people out of Rand's rooms. But they have a history of just letting people in that they deem to be, you know, suitable. Like Rand has commented in the past in his inner monologues that, like, if the maidens decide someone is fine. And in this specific instance where you accuse them of just letting people in, it was Soralia, right? Like, number one among the wise ones.
Yeah,
she's gonna get a
she's
pass.
allowed to just
Yeah.
walk in. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, they have become a little bit angry with Rand.
They are angry, but I don't think they would become lax in their duties. Or maybe you're latching onto the fact that they weren't accompanying Rand the whole time. Like, remember, he notices that they're not there, or they let someone, or they accompany him somewhere and then leave, or something like that. So you were right.
Hey, look,
I mean, they were.
if someone's
pissed off
not
when that was
there-
showing up.
It's Rand. Like, this is somebody.
Yes.
They're
Okay,
there
that
outside
tracks.
the door. They just don't know that he's buggered off somewhere. He's
Yeah,
off
that's true.
gallivanting.
Well, it's a problem with this gateway jumping. I mean, it's hard to keep tabs of people with no doors that you can see them leaving and coming.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
The Datsang sisters that Sorelia brought with her that swore fealty to Rand, we said that they were all compelled, or at least I said that they were all compelled. We know at least one from that chapter, and my suspicion that they were all compelled. But what I remembered is that Veren's form of compulsion requires the person to have an inner justification for what they are being compelled to do. Remember, hers is not just like a grand old compulsion. It's not a full-blown, what we see Morgiran use on 9, even those guys. She mentions when she's doing it, it's sort of like woven together from all the bits and pieces that she learned from all the novices that came to the tower, and her version of it did require some part of that person actually wanting to do that so they can justify it, which is why I think we get them all give these like varying but very sort of like understandable reasons, and maybe why RJ had Rand ask the question, why should I let you? And then they all have this this thing coming from inside. And Elsa in particular, who is Black Ajah, what I read about her is that her thing is she convinces herself that she needs to help Rand get to Tarmon Gai'don so that the Dark One can beat him. So she is also being honest, and she has a reason for getting Rand there safely. But it is so that the part that she's not communicating is that so that she thinks the Dark One can beat him there. Elsa does, however, later, and I think we've actually said this in a previous episode, she kills Tashiva. She kills a Forsaken.
Accidentally.
Well, she thinks it's an Ashaman, and one of the traitor Ashaman that attacked Rand, right? So she does kill who she thinks is Corlin Tashiva. But yeah, she kills one of her own cronies.
Oh, that's going to come back and bite you.
Mm-hmm. Villy, you were asking, you couldn't understand why Cadsuane seemed to be moving in the opposite direction when Rand is busy hunting the would-be assassins in Cairhien after they've blown up the throne room and stuff. I went and I read the section, and when Rand spots her in his sort of folded light or mask of mirrors hiding spot, he sees her like quite far up ahead, cross another corridor. But what I didn't pick up on last time is that she's leading 6 Aes Sedai that Rand doesn't recognize. So like there's other 6 Aes Sedai in Cairhien. And Rand mentions that they look to be hunting something. So Cadsuane has her Paralis net with all her cool like armors and like disruption weaves and all that stuff. She's ready to fuck shit up, and then she's got 6 sisters with her, which she will just force into a link, use all their power, use her Terangriel and Ungriel. So like, yeah, you'd almost think like it'd be worse for Tashiva and Gedwin and Rokade to run into Cadsuane than it would be Rand. Like with Rand, maybe they'd get a sudden death. Cadsuane would capture them probably.
Torture them. I died torture. Like I'm convinced that's what they love doing.
Hold on to that thought in these chapters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I couldn't find, Jody, a reference to Rand seeing through Moradin's eyes. We were talking about the link and the face that Rand sees in his mind's eye, and you were like saying like eventually he sees from his eyes. I think the closest thing that you might have been thinking of is the swirling colors from the other Toveine that Rand eventually can see where they are, and they can see where the other person is.
Maybe.
But I know it was an offhanded comment, but I then, pedantic me, I had to go check, like, is that a thing that happens? Can he see through Moradin's eyes? I don't think that does happen, but there are loads of other instances of them being sort of drawn to each other and mirroring each other. And there's an instance later in the story where Rand unwittingly in his dreams joins a dream shard that Moradin had created. Moradin hadn't like pulled him in there or anything, and they have like this perfectly cordial conversation. Like they sit at a table and they just have a long chat. And then that's that,
What book is that?
Cool. I don't know which one. I mean, it could be one of the Sanderson books. I mean, those I've only read once.
I'm so looking forward to just a cordial chat. Tell me the book and chapter now.
Villy, you mentioned that Taim turned to the shadow when he took the title of the Mihail, which I found interesting because I'd never put those two things together. We've never known exactly when Taim turned to the shadow, and that seems like a cool indicator. I mean, he's always been arrogant though, so like him calling himself teacher or leader or whatever it means, like it wasn't that surprising, but that is a cool idea. There's a lot of theories because I don't think it's ever stated in the story, especially considering that Robert Jordan definitely did write Taim to be Demon Dread in the beginning and then changed his mind later. And then rewrote him to not be Demon Dread. But people seem to agree, and I think RJ has stated that Demon Dread is the one that turned Taim to the shadow, and that means, well, I mean, that means that Demandred obviously would have had to be free from the boar to be able to do that. And I don't think Taim was always a dark friend. So like when he was a false dragon and stuff, he was probably not a dark friend.
No, it was just being his arrogant self with power. And he's like, cool,
100%.
this is what I am.
Yeah.
And then he's like, okay, I'm not. So let's get some dark power now to
Yeah.
try and one up. It's all about he's a usable tool, that guy.
He's a tool. Yeah.
Words out of my mouth, Joe.
I know. He was just a run-of-the-mill asshole, like every other person in the world. Just with tons
And
of
then
power.
got power, and then he was an
Yeah.
asshole with power. A cool theory that a lot of people seem to have is that he was probably freed from Aes Sedai capture, because I don't think we ever learn how that happened either. So like, it's unlike the Aes Sedai would just let him escape right through like a lapse in judgment or concentration or something like that. So there's a good chance that he was helped to be freed. I mean, we know that the Black Ajah sisters were at least talking about a potential plan to go help free him. But if that was done by Demandred or something, he could have been given a choice. Like, you can go free now, but you have to serve the shadow. Like, that sort of thing. Like, I've done you this solid.
Yeah, but also
you're pretty
the time
close.
that-
Just cross the line.
The
Yeah.
time that he escaped, there was also a lot of players still on the field. There was multiple Forsaken still doing their own. And we were talking the period of also let the Lord of Chaos rule. So that's a number one. Cool, more chaos. Let's go free that guy.
He was only captured by the Aes Sedai during the events of Falme. He saw Rand fighting in the sky and fell off his horse. And that's how he was captured. He was fighting Davram Bashir, who he almost beat if it wasn't for that event. Then Jody, yes, the town where Perrin picks up Queen Aleandre was Bethel, and the town where the prophet is Abila. And then something that you said about, remember Harry, the little dude, the little sniveling dude in the corner of the prophet's meeting room, who you said is the guy that collected the ears and stuff?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, cool. But wasn't the guy that Perrin caught, wasn't he blaming someone? He was saying that's Harry's work. So I went back and I read that section, and that is what happens. Perrin finds this like sniveling dude. He's the last one to run away from the prophet's men when the people attack, when like, you know, Perrin's people sort of drive them away. He's the last one to run away, and then he is caught. And it is the same guy. But when Perrin caught him, when he said that's Harry's work, he was talking about himself. Like he was trying to make as if it is someone else, but he used his own name somehow. His physical description is the same, and Perrin like reprimands himself for not recognizing him or seeing him in the first place. So it's definitely the same dude, but he talks about Harry. And then the prophet calls this guy Harry.
Ooh, maybe he's schizophrenic.
He's a crazy person.
Yeah.
He's insane, and he talks about himself in the third person. Like,
I
no
mean, that
surprises.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then 10 podcast points for me, because the inn in Camelin where the girls from the Two Rivers stayed with Varen and Alana is in fact Kulein's Hound. That is the name. I went searching for the chapter because I thought the chapter was called that, but it isn't even that. The chapter's called something else completely. So
You're just amazing.
Surprise.
That's
Well,
that's all.
That's the one thing that stuck, and it is so inconsequential. It so does not matter to anything. But the reason we were talking about it is because we were wondering how many girls from the Two Rivers were there, and it was about a dozen girls. They were at that stage accompanied by Varen and Alana, which makes sense, right? Because they were coming from the Battle of Two Rivers, and, you know, Varen and Alana had helped Perrin defeat the Trollocs and all that sort of stuff. And then they brought the dozen girls up. Soon after that, in Camelin, the Camelin embassy, led by Mirana, falls apart because Bera and Karuna rock up, remember? And they pull rank. Yeah. They're like, and then suddenly there's 13 sisters in the city, and Rand gets spooked and he runs off to Cairhien. But in Camelin, Bera and Karuna take over, and they start giving people orders, and Mirana's freaking out because her embassy is falling to pieces in front of her eyes. And Bera and Karuna send 4 sisters with the girls to take them to the rebel camp. So we got that right. They were traveling south towards Saladar because they were going to join the rebels. But you're right also in that Egwene mentions 2 sisters rock up with the girls.
Yeah.
So 2 sisters have gone off somewhere. But more than 2 sisters, when you read about them, have joined the rebels. So 2 have gone off and done something else and then come back and also join the rebels.
Is this also inconsequential? Or are you telling me this so that I need to remember it for something?
I'm going to say yes, remember it.
Remember it. Gotcha.
But that's just for my own pleasure. There's no reason to remember that fact. And then my last one is, besides Thalion, remember Millie Skane was saying that she's got another Aes Sedai up her pocket if you fail, sort of thing. Like the other one is Marilyn Gamelfin, who was also part of Leandrin's group.
Yeah, I remember her.
Okay, that brings us to listener contributions. And once again, Chris Green writes in, just too late to make it into the last episode for Path of Daggers, but here's his email. Anyway, he goes, howdy fellas, I had a few thoughts for the Path of Daggers wrap-up episode this week. I wonder what poor Narishma is thinking following everything he has been through in this book. He was sent to fetch Kalandor without full disclosure of the trap set, which appears to have led to a close call with serious injury or death. Rand loses control of Kalandor, slaying friend and foe alike. Then from his perspective, there's a large influx of Seaine in the throne room, followed by a protracted Seaine battle in the halls of the Sun Palace. Suddenly Rand appears channeling some Bernie ouchie weave directly at him. Does he think Rand has succumbed to the madness? I'd have pieced out in his shoes as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like Rand's not giving him a lot of reasons to like stay close, you know. If anything, it's like back the fuck up and stay away from him.
Yeah, and his hardship is not over yet.
I think, listen, Narishma's been trained in the Black Tower. I think if you live in the Black Tower for a few months, you see some shit. Like this kind of behavior is par for the course in the Black Tower, I imagine. They're killing crazy people every day, putting them to sleep. And there's traitor heads hanging off traitor trees. Like, dude... He's seen
Time is knocking out his closest allies with maces of air and shit, right? Those are the guys he likes.
That's why when Rand was crazy, he said, "Come out, guys." He was like, "No." I have
we've seen
experience
this
with people doing shit like you're doing. I'm staying right here.
I can read between the lines,
Yeah.
Then Chris also asks, why did Catswain not sense Rand when he wrapped himself in his folded light? It seems like her paralysis net should have been able to sense both Seaine as well as the male channeler. She also should have been able to sense the conspirators, Dashiva, Gedwin, and Rocade, as well as their location. From what I could tell, Rand saw her hurrying in the opposite direction. I wonder if this was just an attempt to hold back revealing the specifics of her Tarangrel and Ungriel until later books, or if Ajah hadn't quite hammered out the details of the paralysis net at this point. So maybe it was Chris that was talking about Catswain Villy and not you. I tarred you with the same brush unfairly. But in terms of sensing Rand, I think Rand was trying to channel small amounts already to not hide from Catswain, but to hide from the other male channelers. And like I said in my description earlier, it seems like Catswain was quite far ahead of him down a corridor. She was sweeping across another corridor with 6 Aes Sedai, and they seem to be hunting something. So maybe guys were jumping around, maybe they were attacking from different positions, maybe they picked a spot that they went for. Because Rand was also kind of just, he didn't pinpoint a spot that he knew he had to get to or anything. He was also kind of...
For me, the stand up there is that Rand says to himself that using this, not mask of mirrors, the shield,
folded light.
Folded light uses so little of the power that unless you're on top of him, you won't be able to feel it. So
there we go.
That sort of is enough for me to cover it.
Villy,
he's not shooting that same ball of balefire.
Yeah, it's specifically stated in the text that it uses such a little amount that no one's going to notice. So,
and as we know, the holy text is canon.
It is
as canon as it gets. Then Chris's last point here is like, ending the book on the Aiel napping officially kicks off the slog. Well, you're on your own. You're on your own, Chris. Yep. Well, I'm not going to call it the slog anymore. While this is easily my least favorite plot arc, I look forward to looking at it with a different perspective. Maybe we'll all be fondly reminiscing about apple carts and pot scrubbing as well as live through the shadow plot.
Will not
Let's hope,
Chris. Give in to pot scrubbing. Like, no.
I can't wait for Egwene to go, like, be captured and be back in the tower and be sentenced to pot scrubbing and start again to see Villy's reaction.
Just be
I'm going to give you those chapters too.
Just be us doing chapters. He's going to take a hiatus for a couple of weeks.
Okay, thanks a lot, Chris. Then our last one comes from Scott Wilson, who sent us in another charming voice note that goes a little something like this.
Hi guys, this is Scott Wilson here. I was just listening to the last podcast, and you guys were talking about how the Aes Sedai that the Seanchan catch are not able to fight in battles, but that's not entirely true because when they feel like they're in danger, they can actually fight in a battle. Because if you remember that in Dumai's Wells, Bera and Karuna joined the battle despite Perrin telling them to stay out of it because they said that they wanted to have a participation in the battle, and so when they went into the battle, they were able to channel fireballs and things like that against other people because they felt like they were in danger. So you guys have a great day, and I love the show. Bye.
Okay, so there we have it from Scott. Vil, you had a thought on why this could be, right?
Yeah, no, that is it tracks. I mean, if you put yourself in danger, then you can use reasonable force. So it's
I would think
maybe
that
a little
would be
bit
a
of
problem.
Aes Sedai.
They're not putting themselves in danger. Like the Seanchan could just go, hey, yeah, throw you into the middle of a battle, defend yourself. Now you can. Now you can fight. Because I wonder if there would be a contradiction.
If
Like if
your
you know
life
you're
is
not
in
allowed
danger-
to go into a battle and you put yourself in that position, does that conflict with the Oaths?
No,
I
I
don't think so.
I mean,
Yeah.
no. I mean, we've seen it, and as it's pointed out, in effect, Perrin told all the women to stay back in the Aes Sedai, and they didn't because
Yeah.
they knew if we are there, we can. If this, then that. So
They're all
the
programmers.
laws of the oaths have got some
Yeah,
ability
makes
to be
sense.
twisted.
Kiruna actually, like, the scene in which she does exactly that, puts herself in danger at Dumai's Wells, is actually fucking awesome because Perrin is the one that sort of catches a glimpse of her, and he describes her as like a queen of battle or something like that, striding through the shadow as her three warders like cut a swath in front of her and fireballs are leaping from her hands. You know, it's this like epic scene. And it is after Perrin told them to hang back, and then she put herself and, importantly, also her warders in danger, because I'm pretty sure the oath says in defense of you or your warder's life. So, I mean, if the warders just run into battle, I got to help him.
Yeah.
Fireballs
you know
for
you can't control
and
those
you get
guys.
a fireball.
It's going to go running off.
I suppose if you throw your warder into a bear pit, you can't attack the human next to you because that would be like, oh, he's in danger, therefore I can stab this guy
in defense of
fireball
his
this-
life. You know,
in
so like the
defense. So you can
channeling would have
fireball
to...
the bear.
Exactly.
No, not everyone.
Not just
Now,
some
if the
random
person if the person standing next to you is holding a knife to your throat or something, you could probably
Then you
channel
can,
against them.
yes.
Yeah.
But I'm sure these Aes Sedai can wangle away.
Yeah,
through,
they'll find a
they
way.
can reason to themselves
Yeah.
extended reasons to why someone's in danger. I mean, I
Absolutely.
think there's a little bit of leeway there.
100%. I think the bottom line, the point that Scott's making and that we've made before as well, is that it would prove tricky to use a captured and collared Aes Sedai as a weapon because of all these special circumstances that would have to exist for them to be able to actually attack something. And I mean, that is also straight from Robert Jordan, right? He said they are pretty useless as Damane in battle, but can be used for other things. Okay, and that is it for callbacks. So let's recap previously on Blood and Ashes. Two kinswomen, Garenia and Christian, are uncovered as Tower runaways and put back into Novice White. A couple days later, Adelaus and Ispen are found murdered, the clues pointing to the killer being known to them. 2 days later, the women arrive in Camelin and Elayne presents herself at the palace, stating her intent to claim the throne. Dylan comes to meet with Elayne in the throne room and declares her intention of supporting Elayne. David Hanlon arrives in Camelin as well and reports to Millie Skane, who has Falion and Jacob Carradine in her clutches. She murders Carradine and warns Falion to fall in line while Hanlon watches and then asks him if he's ever laid hands on a queen. Meanwhile, Rand hears about Elaine's arrival in Camelin and that she's removed the dragon banners and throne, which he assumes means she has turned against him, which he accepts. But Min thinks he's being an idiot and needs to go see Elayne. Sorelia shows up with the 5 Ditsung Aes Sedai that were captured at Dumai's Wells. She asks Rand what to do with them, an uncharacteristic move from the Wise Ones. Rand makes them explain why he should accept their oaths of fealty, and they all give their different reasons, which he accepts, and they swear fealty to him. On the way out, Sorelia encourages Rand to go see Cadsuane again. When he's about to leave the room they were just in, it explodes. Rand orders Fedwin Moore to guard Min as he goes off to deal with the perpetrators. The palace is in chaos, people thinking the Dragon Reborn is destroying the palace. He spots the Windfighter, Shalon Din Togara Morningtide, and Aiel rioting together, doesn't think anything of it, and binds the Musaidin and hides them for safety. He finds Deshiva, Gedwin, and Rokade arguing over whether their attack on Rand was successful or not. Deshiva spots Rand and attacks, but Luz teaches Rand a new protective weave, and he survives the attack, and the 3 Ashaman traitors get away. Rand hunts around for them and almost kills Flynn and Narishma when he spots them in the distance. Later, Rand has returned to Min and found Moore has lost his mind and regressed to a childlike state. Taim arrives and watches Rand euthanize Moore with a cup of poisoned wine. Taim reports that Gedwin, Rokade, Torval, and Kisman are deserters, and Rand tells him to add Deshiva's name to that list to find them and hang their heads from the traitor's tree. Perrin finally meets with Masema and delivers Rand's message that he's to report to Rand immediately. Masema agrees but refuses to use a gateway since he thinks it's blasphemy. He will march to Cairhien to report to Rand. Meanwhile, Fail is out hawking in the snow with Alejandre, Elayne, and a handful of soldiers. They're attacked by Shido and taken as Gai'Shane, except for Elayne, who escapes. Meanwhile, Egwene has gathered and arrayed her forces to lay siege to Tar Valon. A circle of Aes Sedai create a giant gateway 200 meters wide, and they march on the White Tower. And that brings us to Book 9 of the Wheel of Time, Winter's Heart. The prologue is quite aptly called Snow and contains 4 points of view. So, Willie, can you take the first one for us from Seaine?
Okay. Seaine, and when we last were with Seaine, Serene, Yukiri,
Talene, Pevara,
Toveine, Talene, and that bunch. That the oath
Zera,
got
I think she's still there
dilemma. No, Zera got sent out, so she's
Okay.
not part of the mix. So it's the six sister sitters that are in this mix. But now, Talon didn't get away, and she was apprehended and somehow now bundled into a different room where they have a torture chair. Yes, I said I have a torture chair, which
very
is used
smug look on Willie's face right now.
to hurt men generally who get tortured for doing something bad, thieves, and then aptly very quickly runs away from the White Tower, never to return again. And what this chair does is a channeler channels into the chair while the person's in there, and it traps them into almost like a dream shard, I suppose, like a realistic event. And they can justify this because they're not really hurting them, but they're causing massive mental harm to
lifelong
the person
psychological
that's in there.
damage.
Trauma.
Absolute trauma. So now, poor girl sitting in this chair being fed to the Trollocs, and Toveine is the one that's busy doing all of this, and says, okay, and I think she can see what the person, she says, yeah, no, she's being flogged by the Trollocs, and she can see the cookpot. And this is not the first run of torture that has occurred. This is like run 3. And when she comes out of this, now we're in Seaine's point of view, and Serene has clearly taken charge of this event. And again, Oathrod is luckily there with them and says, like, look, you're going to swear off all of these oaths, and you're going to re-swear the oaths, and then we're going to have our way with you. And eventually, well, it gets to that point. Now, a little bit of clashing between Yuki and Pevara about the way that it should be going on. Pevara being very much more pragmatic, like, whoa, we've got a questioner. I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of beef with dark friends who killed my family. And it's not just very quick that you've got to, this isn't just a quick thing. Any which way, the swearing of off-swearing of the oaths, the removal of old oaths occur with a lot of pain. So more pain is being forced upon this inflicted onto this poor woman. And
Poor
then
woman?
she,
This is
hey
Willie,
man, come on, man. Like
one of
that,
his
Jody, but
ilk.
one of my ilk
Objection,
is
Your
going through
Honor.
pain. Overruled. Like I said, the three herbs are resworn, and then question time. There's a lot of crying, and they're like, "Well, just you think it's bad now? Wait till you hand over to Elyda." And she's like, "No, you can't do that because we'll all be dead. Because Elyda's a dark friend. She's Black Ajah." And everyone's like, "Oh God, no!" And again, I think it was Pevara's like, "No, be logical about this. If she believes." And because she has now had the experience of Zera and believing something is real that is not, therefore you can say it, that the oaths don't protect you against that. She's like, this could just be a ruse. We could go down the wrong track.
Isn't
So,
this after she's just resworn the oaths?
yes, but if she believes that Elyda's, because we know Elyda's not Black Ajah.
No, we know.
It never comes out. So it's,
but we've also always known that it's from the point of view of the swear, right? If they believe something is true, they can say it.
Yeah, exactly. So, and Pevara points that out to the rest of them.
Now they're all leveling up. They're all starting to understand how this is going to work.
Yeah, so now they're like, okay, cool. Give us proof of Elyda being a Black Archer member. And she's like, no, there's no meetings. It's very hushy communication. But the belief is there that someone in the upper circle must be, because of the information flow from the top. So, I mean, we're very close to the real source of what it really is.
Real close.
Getting real close to it now. Now they then tell also like, look, we should use her in the same sense, and then also share like what we were doing while before all of this went down in this room with this oath rod, is we've uncovered in the search of Black Ajah that Zera is one of 10, and they've got this plan to swear the same oaths on them to weed out the rebels that has infiltrated the tower. Yukiri wants to go full staunch on the rebels and hand them over immediately. And Seaine, at this point, when reality really sets in about, okay, we have Black Ajah in our midst, vomits in the corner. And that's the end of that quick little point of view.
Yeah.
Ended with a little bit of vomiting.
I think what's happening in the scene is like, doesn't RJ say that every sister has a different idea about how they should proceed? Like some of them, one of them is saying every single sister in the tower needs to re-swear the oaths and state that she's not a Black Ajah sister. And another one is like, no, Zera needs to be brought to or Toveine, or both of them need to be brought to the hall immediately and face the full law of the tower. And like, it's pandemonium, and in the meantime, Seaine is just sitting in the corner thinking, and then he gets up and just spews in the corner while everyone's arguing.
But I mean, the reality of it is that these 6 sitters are now 5, but they're sitting with different Ajahs that are not speaking to each other. It is so divided. This little infiltration from the dark side, the sowing the seeds of chaos is working perfectly. The towers, besides an official split, is also then segmented into 6 inside the tower. So it's I think more realization of where the tower in its totality is standing. And I didn't think that this is a major sort of remember this. It's like more for me, the message is how broken the tower is.
Yeah.
And I mean, put it into the context of this following into a prologue. It's like this a period of time have passed for the reader between the books, and it's like, remember, the tower's broken.
Yeah, it's a perfect little microcosm of the bigger
the big story, little micro, like you said. And that is the thing that stands out for me. Like, okay, cool. A very broken tower with a few people that can actually have conversations with each other, and it has to happen in a dark room at the bottom while torturing people, just as a side thing that's
Weren't they
thrown
saying in the
there.
previous book that like also the ajah heads seem to be, and I mean it's actually it's hard for me to keep track of, okay, wait, who's calling the shots here? There's an ajah head, then there's also the sitters that are super
Yeah, the sitters, not the ajah head.
yeah, the sitters
Can
are
be,
senior
but
members, but the ajah heads are also a secret. Like, you know,
Yes.
like nobody knows who the true head of each ajah is, or some people do. It's weird, it's convoluted, but yeah, tensions are everywhere, right? Like no one is feeling safe. Seaine doesn't feel safe in the White Tower. There's rats around. Seaine mentions it in the beginning of the section.
Yeah.
That should be a bigger deal, right? Like, they're the spies of
No
the
one's
Dark
spies.
Line. Yes. Also,
Hey,
don't they
guys.
have wards? Didn't I read somewhere like earlier in the series? Aren't there wards set somewhere in Toveine to keep rats out or something like that? Maybe the wards are failing.
The Arryn's probably got rid of them.
There is a Forsaken walking the halls, probably just sitting, messing with all these
Yes.
wards.
A Forsaken and a fifth of the sisters are Black Ajah. So,
Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Don't be surprised that your traps aren't working.
Maybe they were never traps, because the people they told to go put traps were Black Ajah, and they went, "Did you put them?" And they went, "Yeah, sure we did."
Yeah.
All over.
Or like just putting
We're
out
fine.
bait. Just beacons for them.
Made little houses. And yeah, the worst thing the tower, for all the splitting, the worst thing they could have done was capture Egwene. Like,
Yes.
their segregation and splitting and fighting was going so well.
Yeah, it was.
And then-
oh, God,
yeah,
wait
yeah.
for that stuff. Oh,
It's
so
coming.
excited.
It's coming.
Anything else from you, Joe or Phil? I've got a couple little minor points here.
Yeah, give it little morsels that you got there. Like, this was actually a really short little section. It was just nice for me that it was so fluent and following on to a
Yeah.
chapter that was not very far back. It's
Yeah.
like because that one leaves you like, oh shit, what happens here? Is she getting stabbed
First
with a
Black
knife?
Ajah sister.
And you get immediate answers. Well, if you're reading them back to back, you get immediate
Yeah.
answers to it. You
Oh,
don't
straight to the torture chair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Straight to the triangular torture chair.
Speaking of which, it's called the Chair of Remorse. In the Age of Legends, the Chair of Remorse was actually a ter'angreal used for entertainment, as it could also be used to simulate positive virtual realities tied straight into the brain. There was a way to place simulated storylines into the ter'angreal, and it contained a large library of simulated scenarios. But the Aes Sedai of the Third Age could not access these. Indeed, implementing the scenarios manually was never a planned feature of the ter'angreal during the Age of Legends. So the Aes Sedai now are using it in a way that was never intended to be. It's actually got a database of like virtual reality scenes that you can access and sit in, that are enjoyable. Now it's called the Chair of Remorse, and it's used for
So
manual
basically,
torture.
it is the chair that they sit in the Matrix and get plugged into,
Basically.
weapons training and learning kung fu. Except they just did a rudimental hack.
It's like a holodeck, with all the different programs that you can go and experience.
Yeah.
All right.
Like both of those things.
It is. Everyone wins. 10 points for all.
Points for everyone. Interesting little note here about Elayne. I think it was Seaine that says Elayne is a green sister but has no warder. And she'd always said a sitter doesn't need one. But now Seaine thinks it's more likely because she's a dark friend, right? Considering how many Black Ajah sisters with a warder would likely need to bring their warder in with them or find a dark friend to be their warder. Which made me think there are a lot of Black Ajah sisters in the tower. So there must be a lot of dark friend warders.
Yes. Even more.
Perhaps. Because look, a lot of these
More
dark
nice.
friends, I don't know if it's just my opinion on the Red Ajah, but a lot of the dark friends seem to be Red Ajah, so they wouldn't have warders anyway.
They have the highest percentage, but I don't think they've got even half of them in totality. But I think the highest
Yeah, and
percentage
then,
of them are.
every green sister, half of them's got like 3 warders, some even 4.
We've
So-
read the stats on this podcast many, many books ago, but I will put them in the callbacks again for next time. And we can see
please
just
do.
how guilty the Reds are.
It begs the question, like, shouldn't there be like a internal affairs department that constantly like keeps track, like, oh, are you still above board? We're going to do a bit of a re-swearing just to
Yeah,
check.
like every
That's
10
what
years.
these women are doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
Like
like
not official.
there should just be this
Never renewed
department
this.
that you get summoned to, and you go like, "Oh shit, sweating!" And if you run away, then they're like, "Cool, send the hounds." We
mean-
found one.
Elayne has unwittingly established an internal affairs within the tower.
Her only good thing she ever done.
By accident. Even a broken
Yes.
clock is right twice a day. Speaking of Seaine and her mission that Elayne gave her, Seaine thinks to herself here, wait a minute, did Elayne set me to hunt the Black Ajah? She never actually said that. Could she have meant something else? Well,
Yeah.
yes. But you both happen to be right in what you're doing, and you actually are doing the same thing.
So yeah, she said to prove Elviaran to be
Traitress.
what, a dark friend or just
a traitor. No, like
traitor.
dealing with Rand behind her back, or like she had some asinine
Seaine-
reason for.
And Seaine read it as looking for
Black
dark
Ajah.
friends, Black Ajah, and what they found was rebels. So like, smorgasbord of things happening here.
I mean, the tower's not in good shape.
No.
The shadow is certainly
Rats are running around
winning.
and it's dirty, so it's pretty rough.
Literal and figurative rats.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I had for Seaine. Should we move on to our next point of view? Aren't you sad that I couldn't think? Okay, all cards on the table. I thought of one segue using a name, and I was going to ask Willie to keep us Seaine and tell us about the first point of view in the prologue. But I can't think of any Elayne or Rand puns, so I thought, okay, fuck it, I'll just dump them all. So, in a very bland and boring way, Jody, can you please give us a summary of Elaine's point of view?
No, not unless you segue me with something awesome. Then,
Jody,
So-
can you please give birth to the summary?
you see.
Nice.
Oh,
Oh,
nice, Philly.
okay, Vil-
Philly's got. You do them from now on.
You hosting.
All right. Full disclosure, disclaimer before I start reading any of this to our listeners. As an old man, 2 weeks ago, I slept on a new pillow. So now I'm paralyzed, okay? Like literally.
Of course.
From the neck to the tips of my dead fingers, I am in extreme pain and on a lot of medication. So I can't type. So I'm reading shit off the internet. And if I start blathering or zoning out, it's the Valium. Okay, let's go. We are with Elayne, who has the most amount of time in this book. So here we begin. Yeah, she's in her council room, waiting for Nynaeve and Vandene, but they are out doing their things. Like Nynaeve is busy with the kin, and Vandene is just obviously and rightfully looking for the killer of her sister. So they're a bit busy, but she is there with Dylan and making plans, because now Dylan and Elayne seem to be inseparable and just planning. And she as in Elayne is telling them, like, listen, we need armed forces. Like, you've talked about all these people that are against me. They've all got their retainers and their little armies and stuff. If they join up, we're fucked. We've got no one. So we need to get some. She wants to grow the city guard and use it as an army. And Dylan's not happy with that idea. She thinks it's bad. The police should not be an army, kind of a thing, which is correct, and vice versa. What makes it worse is that Elayne wants to use mercenaries to do this, and hunters of the horn, because there's a lot of those hanging around. and even Brigitte's like, listen, this is a bad idea because these guys have no loyalty. They like mercenaries. When the money runs out, or if someone pays them more money, there goes their loyalty from you.
Taking a mercenary.
Shit happens. There's no other. She's not going to get enough people. She says, look, if these people come and they try and lay siege to the city, which they will, I'm going to need an army. So this is what we're doing. David Hanlon, I could just imagine him somewhere, his ears perking up or getting like pins and needles on his arm, like goosebumps. Someone talking about me? This is my way in. And now this is his way in, as we will see later, with Elaine's new way of recruiting people. This sneaky bastard sneaks in later. Also, Aiel are leaving the city. Rand has left. So the Aiel will be leaving too. The Saldaeans are with Rand. They're leaving the city too. So they've had this police force of Aiel and Saldaeans the whole time, which are now leaving. So she needs to replace them. Something needs to be done. This is the only way it's going to be done. Not the best idea. So, yeah. She is, forcing her, she's constantly having to explain herself to Aiel and to Brigitte when they are interrupted by our favorite seafaring folk just barging in there. Renail is there, and Zyda, and Merilel with them. The poor Merilel. Merilel, I pronounce it. Merilel. There's a few of these with all these letters. And Elayne's like, listen, I can't deal with you guys right now. You're going to have to, knock on the door like any other human being and wait your turn. Because she's trying to avoid them as much as possible. Obviously, we're all, even while reading them, we're trying to avoid reading about them. But Zyda's like, listen here, we need more Aes Sedai. We made a bargain. We've got Merilel over here. She's great, but, one is not enough. We need more. We need more teachers. This is the deal. You got to give it to us. And she's like, oh, fuck, not now, man. Like, I've got so much on my plate, so much to do. She's like, why don't you guys go back down to Tyr? There's some, sea folk down there. And also to, where are the other ones that she sends them? I can't find them here on my notes. Tyr and Kyrian. Yeah, I think so. Like, there's other groups there. They're going to need your help. But they're like, no. You're not getting rid of us so easily. We're staying right here until we get what we want. Also, we're waiting. Maybe Rand shows up, We want to speak to him too, the Koramur. So we're staying right where we are. You need to give us those guys. And so she's just like offhandedly saying, like, fine, we'll find some other Aes Sedai, and something will be worked. Her line is like, something will be worked out if the light pleases, which apparently is an agreement of some sort, like factual agreement for these guys, for the sea folk. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. We have now a new bargain. This is going to happen. To Elayne, it's just offhanded. Old Rien arrives, the housekeeper. I don't know, you can't call her a housekeeper, would she? It's a palace keeper. I forgot.
She's like the first maid.
No, whatever. All these titles seem insufficient for what she does. So anyway, she arrives to tell them that Mesrim Tahim has appeared, and Elayne's like, I'm not gonna fucking see this guy. He's the last dude I want to speak to, but like, listen, like, tell him to wait outside. I'm busy over here. He has to wait his turn. He just fucking barges into the room, and she seizes Saidar immediately, as you would. I wouldn't be too cautious around this man. She knows that he is untrustworthy, but Time doesn't seem to be affected at all, because he knows that they seized the source, because he can, he has the tingle, he notices it and all of that.
They link as well, like, just not just take the source, but they link as well, because all of them's like the do not trust this black clad gross, slithery, slickery man.
Because even Zyda, is it right? Is it the Windfinder? Yeah,
well, then even the Windfinder, like, it releases the control and understands.
Without,
whoa.
Immediately, everybody in the room, when they see this guy, go, danger. And they just, that's right. They did link. All right. I did warn you before I started reading this. So yes, they did link. It's your own fault. But Tame's just like, he doesn't notice it. So they don't know if he's released. She tells him, like, she also figures he's holding onto the source, and tells him to release it. And he just kind of like spreads his arms, like, fine, like, everything's chill. Everybody calm down. And there's this little wordplay, positioning of power between Elayne and him. She calls him Master Tame. He's in his black coat with his, fake dragons up his sleeves and everything. And he's like, no, it's, don't worry about it, Mistress Elayne, he calls her. Dylan, dagger eyes. What did you say to her? All right, but everybody else is just watching and wary. And he tells her that he has a gift for her. A surprise gift. And she tells him that, listen, I'm gonna, we'll ally with the Dragon Reborn in time and everything. but she kind of like lets slip as well because she calls him Rand, and he notices this and gives her like a little quirk, and he's like, all right, so there's something between you guys. Probably I'll store that away and use it against you later.
Yep.
Yeah, and that Andor is not a conquered nation, and you guys should be careful what you're doing. I know Rand set you up here, but in this Black Tower, I hear that you're now building this giant wall like 4 miles long. You can't just be claiming parts of Andor, dude. Like, this doesn't belong to you. So she is not happy with him, and he is just a sleazy bastard. But yeah, so she tells him, like, listen, this Black Tower is an issue. At some point, I'm going to have to come and check it out. All right. And, she won't, go and cause trouble there and burst in. He's like, all right. So they come to an agreement that he will, they will have some, have a schedule. Let us know you're coming. You don't want to just rock up there with a bunch of Aes Sedai. My men will kill you. So let's schedule it, and then we'll have guards with you at all time and all of this stuff, so that you can come and check it out and be safe, so that nothing bad happens to you. She's like, She's like, also, I want to, keep you guys, under wraps, but with traveling, there's nothing much I can do. So he's like, all right, fine. They come to an agreement about controlled visits, because she's going to keep an eye on them. But, there's some more to talk about. But before any of this can go any further, she gets interrupted again. No one seems to give a shit. She isn't technically queen yet, so I suppose it doesn't matter. And Nadira arrives, so the wise one. She says, it's time for your first sister ceremony. It's time. All right. Elayne's like, all right. Although this is one of those things we have to do naked, right? Everybody's in the room. And they just like, Elayne's getting naked now. So Elayne just starts getting undressed in front of everyone. Taim commands his Ashaman that he came with to turn around, not to look. But the women, even the Windfinders, the sea folk who don't know, they have no idea what's going on, but they see what's happening, and they all make like a little barrier for her so the men can't see her. But she gets totally in the buff there on the cold floor. Remember, the winter has come. So it's chillos, and
we haven't said that enough. The snow has fallen.
Yes.
There's a lot of
It's
reminders
been so hot
about
for
the
so long.
snow.
It's snowy. It's cold. All right. So they do put a blanket around her anyway, and eventually to take her out, and off they go to take this ceremony, where of course they find Avienda also ready for this ceremony. And here is Jody, not shy again to tell you that I read this on the beach, first beach day of the year. Thank God again, because I was tearing up as well there, putting the sunnies on. It's so cool. Cool. These books get me. So yeah, this whole ceremony takes place. It's very intricate, and it's cool because there's a lot of detail in it from Jordan. So there's another wise one. She's like a whole bunch of wise ones. This room is full, and they have to sit on the cold floor in the nude and everything. So there's this wise one called Monele who takes charge. Another wise one, Viendra, stands for Elayne's mother, who cannot be there, and another one called Tamela, who stands for Avienda's mother, who also can't be there. So there's this whole, mother-daughter thing, and it all comes down to being reborn, like literally, I think, being reborn. Amis is there. She comes forward to accept the pangs of birth. And you're reading all this going like, because I don't remember this at all. I knew they became first sisters, but I don't remember the ceremony in this.
I remember it as I read rebirth. I'd forgotten, but when I read it, I was like, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like a whole
none of that occurred to me.
As twins.
This is all new, it's like first time.
It's pretty cool that Amis is there. Where'd she come from? Kyrene or Tyr or somewhere?
Yeah, she traveled there
she was traveled. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Egwene. Because Egwene has been teaching them traveling. Because of some debt she owes them, and Elayne couldn't quite. It's like, what debt? And it's like, don't worry about it, girls. Her toe is her toe.
That's between them. Her
she was teaching the Dreamwalkers because of the training that they had given her. She was teaching them, and that's where I thought, or I had read that people think Sorelia might have learnt it to show Catswain.
That's probably true.
And remember, the toe is around her lying about being sister to them, and that whole spiel.
Yeah, Anyway, I thought that toe was repaid because everyone was like, hey, after the beating in the tent, they were telling her, like, listen, we all get you that you're brave. Like, if you take it any further, it's going to be arrogance. So, but anyway, Egwene still thinks there must be a little bit of toe. And also, like you said, the thanks for making me an kick-ass dreamwalker. Yeah. So anyway, they sit down and they start these weaves and the channeling, and there's all these like things they need to go through. And then the first thing that they ask them is like, what is the best thing you know of the other woman? So they go to answer questions about each other. Elayne says that the best thing that she knows about Avienda is that she's so confident, so proud. She doesn't care what anybody thinks about her and what she should do or be. She's just like, she is who she is, and that's the end of it. Avienda says that even when Elayne is so afraid that her mouth dries, her spirit will not bend, and that she's braver than anyone she has ever known. And to both of them, it's like, what? Really? You think that? Elayne's like, you think I'm brave? Oh, the truth is out, and they all love each other, and it's awesome.
That's right, because what happens is they speak at the same time, but they can't hear each other, and then when they're done speaking, they can both hear each other at the same time. So that they can't hear what the other one says first and change what they were going to say. They both have to say a thing, and then they hear it at the same time. And they're both shocked. Like, what? You think that about me?
Oh, yeah. It gets a little more uncomfortable later on. Uncomfortable truths.
Yep.
So, yeah, like Elayne is just, that amazed that Avienda is, thinks that she's brave, like me, which we all discussed before. She is bloody brave. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and then after this all comes out, then the wise ones explain a little bit about what they said. And it's like Viendra's telling Elayne that courage is good, but that one day it'll leave her weeping in the dust as her spine turns to jelly. Like, she'll be brave, but not all the time. So you must just remember that. Keep that in mind. Vienda is told that she is totally controlled by Jiito because she cares to her bones what everybody thinks about her. So you may not, looks can be deceiving. The second question they ask is then, what is the worst thing that they find in each other? And again, they speak at the same time, and then all is revealed later. Elayne thinks that Avienda thinks violence is always the answer. First thing she goes to is that belt knife whenever there's anything wrong. It's true. Like she's a kid who won't, like a little boy who won't grow up, she says. Avienda is Elayne knows that she is beautiful and that that gives her power over men, and she uses it and exposes half her bosom to the open air. I'm like, what? You walk around naked all the time? What are you talking about? And that she smiles to make men do what she wants. And then they're like both offended by that when they eventually hear each other's words. They're like, what the hell you think about that? But the wise ones again make them realize that, each has the same weaknesses. So, and eventually, Elayne, you're going to get old and ugly, and, you're not going to have the beauty you have now. So you got to make do with other powers. And of course, if someone's beautiful, they're going to use it. Avienda, you're beautiful. You've never winked at a guy or smiled at him.
Have you never done it?
To get
what you
wanted.
A little bit of skin in the sweat tent.
Yeah,
a little bit of
exactly. The men are looking at you in the sweat tent. You know it. So don't come with that crap. And, Elayne as well, you've also been angry and not lashed out at somebody at some point without thinking first. So deal with it. The third question they're asked is like, what is the most childish thing in the other woman that they think of? Elayne's like, yeah, this is easy for me. Like, Avienda won't let me teach her to swim. Like, I've tried. She is just not afraid of anything. Like, she will run into a pack of dark hounds with just a belt knife, but she won't get into any more water than is in a bathtub. That's her limit. And Avienda says that Elayne gobbles, and I quote, gobbles sweets with both hands like a child who has escaped her mother's eyes. Like, if she keeps on, she'll be as fat as a pig before she grows old. The two of them are like, good. Gobble sweets with both hands. Just,
I can relate to that.
Have you seen Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a scene where they both all sit down at the table and they just start eating like foxes. That's
right. Yeah.
That's the scene.
It's all very civil until the eating starts.
Yes, like at a table on plates, but they are foxes.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, everyone is amused by this. Like the wise ones are giggling even, like this is like, yeah. But, again, this is the same thing, that you will have at each other. You all got problems. Like nobody's perfect. And then they asked, like, what is their greatest jealousy? And ooh, here it comes. You know it. Elayne thinks, she had like other things she could have said, but it's too important. So she's going to go for the most important one. And she's like, listen, Avienda has lain in the arms of a man I love. Like, I have never done this with him. I may never. And it's tearing me to pieces because, previously, like, Rand hasn't visited her and there's been this whole thing about it. And Avienda says that, well, Elayne has the love of Rand al'Thor. Her heart is dust for wanting him to love her, but she doesn't know if it ever will. So it's the same jealousy is over the same dude. Yeah, well, like one of like he loves you, he slept with me, but he loves you, and vice versa. Yeah, so that's their biggest jealousies of each other. And now it's time for good old Aiel violence. We want you two to slap the shit out of each other on the floor. So Avienda is told, like, you hit Elayne as hard as you can with your open hand across her face. And you do so before, like, Elayne has a chance to react. Like, the way this is written is like they're slapping each other that they go flying and sliding across the floor.
Sliding on the floor? That is wild.
Vicious.
They are
very
in this
polished
state,
floors.
there's power that's being channeled into them. There's a little bit of it's like it amps up the slap for the purpose of this is the last slap that you'll ever give. So it's going to be a good one. You're going to go flying.
And look, it's not just one slap. It's like first with your right hand, now you with your right hand. Okay, now we're going to slap her with the other hand on the other side of the face. Just keep slapping each other harder and harder. Like so Avienda hits Elayne, she's like, holy shit, what was that? Like, that's much harder. So she's pissed off, so she slaps her back even harder, and it gets harder and harder. Like, they wake up, they kind of like dazed for a few seconds, seeing stars and little birds and everything. Just like, whoa. So yeah, they've had some emotional time, now some physical time, and now they're told, like, listen, this is part one. We're done with part one of this ceremony. You may leave now, all right, as many people do. But if you still want to be first sisters, you got to go all the way. So you need to, like, sort yourself out. Like, if you leave now, that's it. You can't come back and do this again.
Yeah.
So they hug each other, the two of them, and they're asking for forgiveness and everything. And they say, there's no ways. We've come this far. We're going all the way. So Monanel tells them that, of course, you're going to find yourselves angry with each other in the future, but remember that you've already struck one another, so you've got, like, credit built up with the punches and the slaps. Next time you're angry with each other, you can take it easy. And yet you're always going to have toe towards each other. This is part of our culture and your siblings. So you're always going to be angry. You're always, like, this is normal. So she tells them that to be born again, as first sisters, and then this crazy weave begins. Saidar being woven, and she's trying to look at it to see what it's like so she can copy it later on. But she begins to lose sense of the world, and she's like in my mind, going back into the womb, kind of like that scene of Neo waking up in the pod, pulling all the tubes out of himself. Like that's
that we opens his baby amniotic fluid.
He is a baby in amniotic fluid, and he's an adult like they are, But like he wakes up.
Yeah, but he's also being flushed down a drain.
Okay, let me finish what I'm saying. The first part where he opens his eyes and you hear a heartbeat, like, and he's underneath liquid, and he's dazed and confused, and this is what's happening. So they are like being reborn with the power, like actual babies. Like they don't know who they are. They have to they don't know what things are. They have to, but slowly,
they feel the actual squeezing of birth.
Yes, they feel like they're being born, and so does Amis. She feels like she's giving birth. Hopefully not to two full-grown women, maybe baby-sized in her experience. Hopefully, so yeah, everybody feels like an actual birth being taken place, and their heartbeats are in sync. And when they come to, they're all like lying against Amis's chest, and they can like feel each other in their brains, like a water bond kind of a thing.
Yeah,
and there's much crying and relief and sweating and pain and everything is done, and they are now first sisters, and that's how we leave it. What did I miss?
Nothing. No, that was great. I enjoyed that ceremony. I thought it was interesting enough. Like there were enough dimensions to it, right? Like it wasn't just one question. It wasn't perfunctory. It wasn't just like, and then they had a ceremony. Like RJ goes into it, but it doesn't feel too contrived. Everything fits. You can see the rationale for like, okay, cool. What do you like about them? What are you jealous about? And all that sort of stuff. That is establishing the sister relationship pretty well. I thought it was. I didn't think it overstayed its welcome, but it was still detailed enough to feel pretty monumentous, right? Like it's an event. Like there's actually quite a lot of page time dedicated to it, which is cool because it is an important relationship for those two. So yeah, dig it.
Yep, I must agree with you. I enjoyed reading every single word of that in between all the snot and tears. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, unlike you, I didn't shed tears at this. I mean,
it's because you're a heartless dark friend.
Oh yes.
It's two adults getting psychologically birthed and now bonded. We've had many bonding ceremonies now throughout this book. Very nice that it's finally happened. There was a concern that was raised, which stood out for me. It's like, whoa, what's going to happen to my warder? And being put at ease that Birgitte will know and feel that there's something there, but this is not a link in. No. This is its own separate little thing.
Wait until you bond Rand, then really complicate things.
We'll keep an eye on it, right? See what happens when it happens.
But yeah, I mean, the slaps giving was memorable. There was very hard slaps handed out.
That was a PK, as you would say, right? Yeah.
But now it's done. They've done their slaps, they've done their things, and now they're sisters. And do they go through this again with Min?
No, Min doesn't become a first sister.
She doesn't become a first sister. Okay.
I don't think so. But I don't. Yeah,
asking the wrong guys, Billy.
Yes, I don't think it happens.
No.
There was all kinds of stuff that happened before the ceremony with all the windfinders, or the sea folk at least, and there were two sea folk, weren't there? Like there was a windfinder and then one that acts as the emissary from Rand that was sort of named in one of.
No,
is it Renale?
Yeah,
one of them is acting like a sort of like a prickly douchebag, and then the other one is acting all like graceful and gracious, like not being demanding, sort of just smiling, but knowing that she's in charge and she's the one that's sort of looking at the ornaments and the looking glass and stuff, like the things arrayed in the room that she's sort of casually observing while talking. And then I think this is the first time we hear Birgitte's assumed surname, Trehelian.
It is the first time.
Birgitte Trehelian is her persona, a Kandori woman. So
the cat's out of the bag now. Somebody said Kandori, so we're going with it.
It's got to go with that now. Because she got given some land and titles now.
Yes, much to her dismay. She hates it. She also doesn't like Dylan. Dylan and Birgitte don't get along. It's cool. Like they're kind of like sniping at each other the whole time, which is pretty funny. Cool little insight here into Elayne's intentions to have Nynaeve Almira act as the Aes Sedai advisor to the Queen of Andor. Her plan for Nynaeve is to have her as the Elida, like as the official Aes Sedai advisor to the Queen of Andor, which I thought was great. That's so cool that Elayne
They've
wants
come
that.
so far.
They have. I mean, Nynaeve and Egwene,
Tanchico and
Nynaeve and Egwene had their big sort of butting of heads and trying to figure out their relationship post both becoming Aes Sedai and stuff. But and Elayne was always the one playing peacemaker and trying to broker the deals between them.
Does Elayne at this point in time know the advice of the deal that Nynaeve made with the Sea Folk? Because it might be a shit decision to do it for Andor. She might just be a really bad advisor.
Maybe, but she makes a comment here Nynaeve has a head for small town politics or something along those lines that she would never admit. Circle. Yeah, she would never admit to being, but she has a feel for it, and she does understand politics. But also speaking of Birgitte, there's another always whenever RJ gets an opportunity, he talks about the link between them, right? And how the emotions are flowing through the bond and everything. And I was just thinking how many variations of this bond, how many nuanced versions of the bond we're getting. And I really like it. It keeps it interesting. It's not all bonds are like the water bond. Here's one where emotions are mirrored. The bond that we spoke about last time that Pevara and Andor have eventually, where they bond each other, is gives them telepathy powers. They can talk to each other with their minds. There's all these cool little versions. Now the first sister bond, which is also different but similar, is cool. I just like all the variation. Elayne thinks to herself, there were methods of interfering with a man channeling Seaine short of shielding him, but it was a difficult skill, chancy, and she knew little more than the theory. What is she talking about?
Has she been doing some reading that we're not aware of? Also been in Herodfell's books?
I mean,
he doesn't have many books on channeling. He's got all kinds of.
You don't know what that guy's got. He's got tons of shit.
Well, she speaks here a little more than the theory, right? So, anyone can theorize about how something like that could work. I mean, Rand's theory of how he's going to cleanse Seaine is also just a theory at this point.
Theory, yeah. Look, I mean, they can shield a man. So shielding of a man is there.
But she says interfering with his channeling short of shielding him. So specifically not shielding him, but interfering with his channeling. And it was a difficult skill.
After the time with Matt's medallion, sparking thought that there is a way, because she was fascinated with that medallion.
And studying them, right? And being able, because Elayne can make ter'angreal, so she'll have to understand the weave that sort of, for lack of a better word, powers a ter'angreal. So yeah, maybe that's it, Phil. I didn't even consider Matt's medallion, but
maybe when she meets Catwain, she's going to see those little birdies in her hair and go oh man, all the things come together.
Maybe, but yeah, I mean, the only thing I think that she's come into contact with where she could have gained knowledge like this, I was thinking was one of the ter'angreal that she was studying. But I think Willie, you're even closer with naming specifically Matt's medallion.
If I recall correctly, there's a lot now with Elayne in the palace with the Windfinders. There's a lot of sea folk stuff and all the teaching, and a lot of her working with ter'angreal and figuring them out and duplicating them and making new ones in this book. Well, in this stretch of the story where she's in the palace, if I recall correctly.
Well, we've got a lot of chapters dedicated to her, so we've got a lot of things that she needs to be doing. That
got to be now.
Might as well be one of them. I hate the interactions between Elayne and Taim. I hate the fact that they have to interact, because he tells his Ashaman to turn around, but he doesn't.
He doesn't.
No.
Oh, he's a sleaze bag.
Yeah, and he's super dangerous, so I'm feeling protective over Elayne. I don't like him being around her, and I don't like him
for me,
the way he looks at her.
The standout there is the awareness of all the women that they getting to the point, and it's about arguing about when are we going to get our dedicated training and what and all this, until he walks in and all of it just ceases, and they all in unison, without discussing, embrace the source and link and relinquish to Elayne. Okay, cool. There you go.
Telling.
You've got all our power.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is so he is painted as a massive. Like I hate the fact that he is in Camelin, that he's there.
Yeah, in Andor.
And in Andor, he should be moved
Just
out to the Blight. Like Randstad Gate was like, you live here.
there's nothing in the Elayne Plains. Like nothing. No one claims that land. It's close enough.
Even better.
Just go there.
The waste.
No, I don't even want him in
Go
the
to
waste.
Put him in the waste with all
In
the
the
wise
Blight.
ones and the
Put him
Aiel
in the
around them,
Blight.
so they can't get too frisky. Okay, what else? Oh, more Elayne. She is so sharp. Immediately understands the summons has to be as inconvenient as possible to show that the ceremony is more important than anything else. So Nadir compliments her on her acuity. She's like, not everyone recognizes that. Because Elayne goes, this had to happen actually at that moment when it was extremely inconvenient to show you that I'm dedicated to it. And she's like, yep, not everyone sees that. So well done.
I
She sort of
completely
gives her a smile.
planned, and she calls it out. I mean, she is, like you say, she is absolutely, the intuition is very, very, very strong. And also the uncomfortable nature of being put in the position of having to strip down to a birthday suit in front
does
of
it.
Daim. Like that just made my like hair stand on end. Like this creep. And again, all the women in the room
Stood together. Without
and
discussing
moved in
it.
front of her. Like there's no talk. It's just like, you are
great.
such a creep. And again, that's how they're all going to have his number after this in unison.
I mean, if all the women know what a creep looks like. There he is.
There he is.
Like, it doesn't matter what background you're from. When you see a creep, you see a creep.
Yeah. You can't describe one, but you know one when you see one.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had a point here about Amis traveled via Gateway, so this could be where Soraya learned it from Egwene teaching them. And then my last point was when they're about to start the ceremony. I can't remember which wise one it is. I think it's the one with the tricky name with the M that you said before, Joe. But she says to them, that's the one. There are forms to be followed. Come, we are not clan chiefs discussing water pledges over Usquai.
Yeah.
Like there aren't even any chiefs around, and they'll take the opportunity to have a little dig at them.
Yeah. Is this? I think is this the line? I remember. I've read so many chapters now. I can't remember. But is the line where Elayne thinks to herself like, that sounded like an Aiel joke of some kind. Like she doesn't get it, but it sounded like it could have been a joke.
I don't remember her commenting or noting that, but it could well have happened. But that's certainly how I thought. I was like, oh, look at me laughing at Aiel jokes.
Sounds like a callback for Joe.
Oh shit!
Ooh.
I'm gonna start.
Jody's paralyzed. He can't do anything.
Oh, I can reach. There we go. No, the medication's kicked in now.
Okay, good. Should chase it with some wine.
Hell no.
Top up my wine now.
All right, that is the second of our 4 points of view. The third one is from Toveine. Willie, can you take us through Toveine's point of view?
Toveine Gazelle, 2 pointy horns, slender in build, likes to jump, but that's all in her dreams, which she is rudely awakened by because it's morning. And in that dream, she had her hands around Elida's neck, throttling her, and she's upset that she woke up from that
I've had
dream.
that same dream.
I think we all have had that dream. Anyway, it's again a lot of emphasis on the fact that it is fucking cold, misty breath indoors. She has to break the water in the pitcher because it's iced up inside. So winter has well and truly set in. Logain is in her head, and it's been in her head the whole time. And she still doesn't understand that this is the man that has been gentled. Like, how is this possible? But anyway, they have now realized that at their current location and the Black Tower, all 51 of the Aes Sedai that were sent have been captured. Nothing got away. But anyway, she gets on with her morning wash. She's allowed to channel minuscule amounts, and one of them is to heat up some water, so she doesn't have to have a ice cold morning shower. outside, when she gets up, there's about 20 odd sisters waiting for her. One of the things that has been, I don't know, like law that or rule that's been put on them is that they all have to remove their Aes Sedai rings. And this doesn't sit nicely with the vast majority of them. Now, there's vast plans of this Ashaman village, Black Tower, of expansion, which rings into the previous chapter and we talk about the long wall that is being built, and that it's going to rival the tower in its magnificence. And all of this building is being performed with the power, which for Toveine is also like, whoa, these guys do everything with the power. It is a very stark contrast to what the White Tower does and how they go about with their business. This is a power-wrought system. There are children in the village. She can't understand that children would be running around with all of these madmen, but I mean, there's children in the White Tower as well. And there's mad women there quite clearly. They are divided and broken. A mounted party with Queen's guards arrive, and she makes sort of a visual sort of, whoa, that one is dressed quite funnily and has the mark of sort of the leader of the guards, which is obviously Brigitte. And then
Kandori pants she's wearing.
Kandori pants, yes. And then a little bit later, also that she hears Elayne, and she's like, oh shit, this is the runaway accepted Elayne. And that she's
Elayne has said
Elayne wants her
reclaimed.
Back. Like a real emphasis on that too. But as she's compelled to follow the rules, and she's got to get to where she needs to be for breakfast for Logain or whatever, and decides that nothing can hold her back from this being compelled. She runs and falls, and then dogs come at her and bite her dress, and she eventually gets saved by some woman and says, I don't know, Aes Sedai, sorry about this. Me, myself, was a cat lady. And the little irony of that, Aes Sedai cats, main dogs, type of thing that's coming. But the dogs really didn't like her.
Months or years ago.
Already.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going through my notes here.
It's cool how, back in the day, we were talking about things later in the series. You read about this thing, and it reinforces this thing, and we're in that phase now, like the back nine.
Yeah, we deep in the thick of it now. Anyway, back at Logan's house, if it can be called a house, which is really just a shanty type of place, but I suppose it will do for his stature. She can feel him that he's concentrating, perhaps reading really hard. It's a very modest house, and then she bumps into Gabriella, the other Aes Sedai, brown sister, who the night before have had some great sex with Logain, and she had to have that stuck
all flushed?
because there's now all link between the lot, and she can't believe that this hussy has stooped so low to give in to his lustful, and did he force his way on her? We're going to hey, settle down. It took me 2 days to get onto him, because you will be surprised what a man will tell you if you have a little bit of hide the sausage with him. They spill all the beans, and I intend on writing a book. So she's being a journalist at heart. Toveine then sorry, I've outworked my notes here. Nynaeve's name pops up, because as the men come in, so it would appear every morning Logain gets reports from what are young soldiers that come and like, okay, cool, that this has happened and this has happened. He's forming his own little rank in the Black Tower there. And one of the things that comes like, there's a lot more of the men that is expressing interest in the type of healing that Nynaeve performed on you. And Toveine is picking up every single name, because she's thinking, when this all falls apart, we have to hunt down every single one of these men this is going to be an important bit, like remember as much as we can. But then she's like, Nynaeve, there's Elayne, Nynaeve, two rivers men. There's like all of these things start linking up in her head. She's like, the other accepted that's ran away. I'm like, yeah, the accepted is a full sister that also healed the guy that you guys still, that's sitting in front of you, that bonded you. So there's a lot happening here in front of her.
Remember, Toveine is a red sister that was instrumental in the vileness as well. She is like super anti-men, super especially anti-men that can channel. Like being stuck here at the Black Tower is like her worst case scenario.
Worst life event. It's like,
that's why she's thinking these men are going to have to be hunted down sooner or later. We're going to have to deal with them. You know, even in this position, she's planning for that.
I do like. I mean, you take every person from where they come, but her dealing with the situation. I need to do what I need to do. It's reminiscent of Egwene in a difficult circumstance. Like,
playing the hand she's
dealt. I need to do
dealt.
what I need to do. I need to play the hand that I'm dealt. I've got to gather as much, and she's already picking up. Elayne's there, two rivers connected to there. How did Logan get healed? Like, she's picking up stompies and putting things together. That's which is actually really good for me. I like that bit of the storytelling there.
I would like to interject here and say that I don't agree that she dislikes men. I think it was clear in the last one that she does like men. She doesn't like men who can channel, but she looks at the other Ashaman. She was, that's more my type, the younger, good-looking guy. Logain was good-looking.
Right, yeah.
She talks about, so she's not anti-men.
Not anti-men,
she's anti-men,
just
that,
anti-men
can
that can channel. Okay.
Anti-men.
Which, yes. Still, your point is even more enforced for this situation.
Yes.
But just to clarify on the men.
Hey, I love the pedantry.
A bit of news arrives in that there's a new names on the traitor tree. The Christmas tree where they hang the heads, which is quite disgusting. No one really likes that tree. And children play underneath it. Look at his head. Throw a rock at it. Anyway, interestingly, Narishma's name has been added to the
and Flynn
list. And Flynn.
Okay, so this was this chapter because I didn't know, because I've read ahead and I didn't know when to mention it.
And Hopple.
Hopple, Narishma, Flynn.
And Flynn.
Then we've got the standard ones, the Shiva, Gedwin,
Rocade, Kisman, Torval.
Rocade, and those lot. The bad ones are on there, but also Rand's sidekick bunch has been added to it. So keep a lookout for that development coming there. Toveine again, it's like, I've got to remember all these names of all these men that's coming in. She's like really focused on that. And then the thought that settles in, like in and amongst her stuff that has come out is Elida's orders that every single man should be either gentled or killed. That's there, and thinking like, oh shit, how this is going to reflect on them. But Logain is working at a very...
Elida's order was to hang them.
Hang them. Gentle them, then hang them.
No trial,
then
don't bring them back.
Them.
It's in her lap desk that went missing during the chase in the snow when Logan caught her.
Yeah, so that is hanging over her. The interesting thing that even Gabriel picks up there is that there is within the tower factions. And I mean, that should really speak true to them, because in their own tower, there's multiple factions and all of them are broken up at the moment. But Toveine still thinks that all of these men need to be captured. But more men every day. 10 to 15 more men every day. Unsurprisingly, they're having some real trouble with the Two Rivers boys. They're young. And they don't seem to have a problem that 15-year-old Two River boys are not being pulled into this. And Logan says, hey man, the White Tower will take 12-year-old girls and start training them. So just...
It's admittedly very different type of training. Not making shit explode with your mind all the time.
Box grabbing and the likes. But at the same thing, it's just like, look, we got to just keep an eye on them, because I don't think Rand's going to be stoked if his kin or his people get blown up by some incident of stubborn behavior.
Logan says that And then
Yeah,
I think
Logain basically puts that together.
one of the other guys says, I don't think Rand really cares much about anything. What I heard is that he said pull every single thing that's short of a chicken out of the two rivers to come to the Black Tower.
Yeah, that was his. There's everything there, short of chicken and dogs or what, something of the
something
sort.
like that.
Yeah, I think it's a Toveine at this point. As she's thinking, like, I heard as well that Elthor turned his back on his village, but she doesn't believe
Yes,
it. Like,
yeah. But yeah, she doesn't quite believe it, which is just backing up Vili's point that she's fucking sharp, right? Like she sees it for the facade that Rand is specifically generating as well.
Now, just from this short 2 days or whatever she has been there, she already sees that the best way for them, and them being the sisters, that the 51 sisters, if not more, that's been captured, is actually to band together. There's a way that they're going to have to do this, and that sort of wraps up that that chapter, really.
Mm-hmm.
there's another two sisters that are more powerful, and if they go to them first and just defer to them, and hopefully they will have the same idea and they can, because we have to
Because
be
they're going to have
united.
to fall within their ranks. There's no sort of,
Yes.
I was the head of this.
Like-
There's other sisters, like, fall in rank and file, use the structures that we have and pull these sisters together. But
and get together.
we'll see how
to
that
figure
goes.
this shit out.
But
Badly.
this is after she's already had the shit kicked out of her by the other sisters. Like they attacked her with hand and feet. Like she's got her work cut out for her if she's going to try and make a play for, like, influencing what's...
That's why she needs to get in touch with the hierarchy, because she can't do this. No one's going to follow her.
Yeah.
And that's like, yeah, she's bummed as well because everybody thinks it's her fault. She's like, I didn't order this. It's Elayne that ordered this.
Exactly. And she is getting a very hard rap here, right? Like she was walked into a trap.
Well, I mean, it's evident through the opening of this point of perspective that she's dreaming about physically throttling Elayne.
Her
And
point of view
upset.
also ends with that. She says, all this stuff is going to
I'm
happen.
going to.
But I'll deal with that once I've dealt with Elayne or something along those lines. Or this is going to help me. Like, I think she even invokes that, like, get my hands around her neck image again. Like she's dead
upset.
set on strangling
In fact,
her.
I'm not hating her at all. I'm liking Toveine. I'm liking her approach. I'm liking her.
A red sister whose job
Yeah.
was to murder all the Ashaman, and we're like, she's kind of cool. I dig her. Yeah.
Yeah, a red sister who followed orders and stuck to her things, and who was misled by her Ajah and her Amarylline. So, I mean, we do realize that in and amongst bad organizations are good people, I suppose.
Pevara. She's a red we like.
Yeah, she's red.
And she's only going to get radder like as time goes on. Yeah, like you were saying, Moritz, in the previous section about them all having different ideas about what to do. And Pevara's like, we catch and punish every single one of these bastards. It takes me the rest of my life. None of your plans are going to happen.
Yeah. And it's so cool how, like, we've been led, we know this, that's typical Pevara. We know that's what she would say because we've already been told about the Dark Friend's history and her family getting murdered by them. And, like, it's just another example of, sure, RJ took like a couple opportunities to remind us of that fact, but now it just bolsters any kind of behavior or attitude from her because we know it to be true to character. The Black Tower running count is 500. It's cruising pretty quickly at the old
Cruising
Black Tower.
well and strong.
And
And
what
that
was you
is
saying,
after
Willie? Like 10 to
deaths and like
15
the expenses
a
of
day?
blowing up people. 10 to 15 a day being added in. And I don't know what the death count is, but I think the death count is pretty significant. Like
Pretty
a third of them
high,
probably
yeah.
succumb like at the end of it.
Taim says to Elayne at one point when she says, we're going to come and do like inspections of the Black Tower and the guards are going to come. He's going, okay, well, we lose X many people a week. I wouldn't want an accident to happen. Training is pretty hard at the Black Tower. And Elayne immediately picks up like, is he meaning accident as in like we're going to get killed or something bad is going to be made to happen?
That's what he means, yes.
That's exactly what he means, yes. And
I'm
he's
going
not
to
even
plan
being
an
too
accident
coy
for
about
you.
it either. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want you to have an accident.
Sounds like a Mr. Burns voice at that time. Yes,
Yes, exactly.
Smithers.
Yes. When Elayne and Birgitte and a couple of the guards do come to the tower, so from Tovein's point of view, the person leading them is a bulky man with oily hair and an oily smile and eyes like augers. Who is that? Because he then calls Elayne Lady Elayne.
No idea.
Those words ring a bell, but I never took notice of that.
No. Yeah, so I just, for some reason, the first time I read it, I thought Taim, just because of the dark hair and the dark eyes. But then I realized but I wouldn't describe Taim as bulky. He's tall.
No.
But he's
tall
not a
and
big,
lanky.
bulky dude. Yeah. And he had an oily smile, but not oily hair. Anyway, see if we can figure that out at some point. Apparently, Gabrelle is quite loyal to Logain, and they spend the whole series together and becoming better and better, like working together quite well. She, at some point, according to the fandom wiki, because this is a bit confusing to me, but apparently she's the one that tells Logain, okay, break the seals, and actually is the one that names him Sealbreaker the first time.
Well, it would make sense
come
being
up
a
with that on
brown
her own?
sister. She would have delved into some reading, perhaps.
Maybe she's relaying a message from Rand or something like that. But I thought the cool part of that is that she's the one that gives him the name.
Maybe she bumps into Min, hands a bit of Harriet Fell's books to her. Books go around. There's not many libraries.
Okay, let's keep an eye out for that. It would be interesting to see how Gabrelle, so it would be when Logan is traveling with Rand, maybe. And that happens later in the series, right? Like when that attack on the farm happens, Logan is there. So Gabrelle would be there as Logan's quote-unquote warder, his bonded Aes Sedai. And with Rand there, Min would be there too. So yeah, let's check it out. Evan Vinchova, who's one of Logan's men here, one of the Ashaman. He is later turned to the shadow forcibly. Donalo Sandomir, another one of the men here, one of the Ashaman. He's the guy that we have spoken about before, the guy with a creased like farmer's face, but he wore a pointed beard like a Terran noble. Yeah. Here he's described as having assuming the stance or almost the stance of what he would think a Terran noble would stand like. Like he is clearly a commoner, just living now into his fantasy of being a noble now that he's an Ashaman.
No one knows where I'm from. I could be anyone I want to be.
Exactly. Also forcibly turned to the shadow eventually. Androl is here. He's loyal to Logain and he later bonds Pevara. We know that. Mezar Kurin is one of Logain's strongest men. Forcibly turned to the shadow later. Like all these guys you're reading about here, like Logain's like building up this little team of dudes here that you think, okay, cool. Because Logain is also the only full Ashaman that's not living in Taim's palace.
Yeah.
He's living here with the rest of the soldiers and the dedicated in this house that seems to be the biggest on the street, but is still kind of modest.
In comparison to a palace.
Yes, but also palace, quote unquote palace. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not really like the Sun Palace. It's more.
But if all the Ashaman are living there, then Logain does stand out as the sort of counter force to Taim in the Black Tower, and this is obviously these are the beginnings now of where we see the two camps sort of starting. But all the guys we're meeting here in Logain's camps, his first sort of loyal dudes are all turned to the shadow eventually with the 13 withdrawal and stuff. It is, Taim wreaks havoc here, and it's pretty rough. I laughed at Gabrelle's thrill of feeling powerless against Logain goes against everything the Reds stand for on multiple levels. So, Tovein's like she almost feels faint, or she thinks Gabrelle is insane when Gabrelle's sort of like making tea and talking about how it was quite thrilling and stuff.
He's supposed to be. He's strong, but it's a different type of strong. Like, anyway, interesting.
Yeah.
Toveine doesn't know anything about Nynaeve. A new kind of healing used by an accepted? That's bordering on impossible. Wait until you find out what she actually healed. To a red from the time of the gentling men is what she's all about. And Nynaeve figured out a way to reverse that. can undo all your hard work. Sorry for you. I mentioned Loghain's men feel like Rand doesn't really care about the boys brought from the Two Rivers, but I'm stoked that Loghain stands by his instructions. He's like, listen, don't you worry about what you think Rand is feeling. Just listen to me and you'll live. Mishrael is the Ashaman that they now hear is getting private lessons from Taim. He becomes a dark friend, but not forcibly. He just is a dark, shadow-hearted bastard. Kojima is another Ashaman bonded by an Aes Sedai named Gennaro Balmain. Kojima bonded an Aes Sedai named Gennaro Balmain as part of the capture. So when they caught all these sisters, he bonded her, but they actually do start to get on well, and they do work well together. Later, both forcibly turn to the shadow.
Moritz is starting to bum me out, eh?
I know.
Stop it now.
I just had a note here about I think Taim is the one that added Flynn, Hopwell, and Narishma to the list of traitors, because Rand tells him to add only Dashiva. When he says Kisman, Tormel, Rocade, and Gedwin were all are now traitors, he said add Dashiva. He didn't say anything about Flynn and Narishma and Hopwell.
I think that's what made me think. I was like, that's a ballsy move. Surely, I mean, if someone catches Narishma and kills him and hangs his head on the traitor's tree, and Rand sees that, Rand's gonna know that someone killed these guys eventually if they're on the list.
He'd have plausible deniability. He'd say, "Oh, sorry, I just assumed all the Ashaman with you because they're not with you anymore." If they're not with Rand, they're fair game.
What are they going to do if they're like Narishma's hanging at the back with him there, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh, Lord Dragon!" Oh,
Narishma and Flynn have taken a step back.
But it's all well known because these Ashaman, Loghain and his buddies, are talking about those guys are on the list. They are like his best buddies and everything. Everybody knows.
They were so stoked when they got their pins and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's odd. Everyone's going to know something's up, and Rand's going to go,
"Yep,
dude, you knew that these were my guys."
It's ballsy.
So let's see.
Well, Rand almost killed them.
Yeah.
He hasn't seen them since.
Yeah, he's crazy. He's a crazy man.
Yeah, it's a crazy man. It's fine. I'm really actually starting to like Loghain again now. I didn't like him much when he was traveling with Min and Leanne and Swan and those guys.
He's going through a rough spot.
But here he's really fucking holding the line, standing up for Rand's, village friends and acquaintances and stuff when he doesn't really have to, which is pretty cool. And he seems to be treating the Aes Sedai, especially Gabriel, quite nicely.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's it for me.
I got my call back already. Don't give me 2 weeks of homework to come back.
Sweet.
There are forms to be followed. Come, we are not clan chiefs discussing water pleasures over Usquai. Laughing, making what seemed to be jokes about clan chiefs and the strong Aiel liquor, the other women formed a circle. So it's like, she's like, I assume it's a joke.
They're acting like it's a joke. Must be joke.
Everyone's laughing. All right, whatever.
Okay, speaking of clan chiefs, why don't you give us a summary of the point of view from the chief of chiefs, Rand, please, Jody?
Yeah, quick one. All right, just gonna choop through this, and we could discuss it afterwards if you want.
Choop it.
Yes, choops. Rand is discussing the attack on the palace with Toveine. And Tovraine's tiptoeing around the fact, like what the people are talking about and what happened and the rumors going around. And Rand's like, yeah, I get it. Everyone thinks I've gone mad and I'm the one who destroyed the palace. Lots of sweeping going on. People are coming to look around and just look at the hole in the side of the palace. Like people are gathering around and stuff. It's quite a thing. Tovraine's like, hey, listen, as well, during the attack, this Aiel, Riotin, and some sea folk official are missing. And Rand's like, whoops, yep. I remember tying them up under a bed. He goes, don't worry, Cadsway's got them. I don't think he knows Cadsway's got them, but he figures if no one can find them and they're not under the bed, Cadsuane found them. She has them. They'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Or will they? They're just, Cadsuane's got them. They're out of your reach. Forget about them. Cadsuane's got them.
Just forget about it.
They're gone now.
He's at the, by the way, he's at the university, at the academy.
Yes.
At this point, I think, as well. Because he looks out the window here and he sees that Powell was the inventor's name, steam wagon. So we're having the first train locomotives being built now. Technology is advancing, and this thing, the last time he saw it was just like a box that shuddered on a table and then exploded. And this one is looking out the window, and they're testing like a full-size model, and the way it's explained, like the arms going up and down and the steam coming out of it, and the thing moved like 20 paces, and then it almost exploded and killed everyone. But progress, things are happening, and he's just like, Rand is freaking out. He's like, what? This is amazing. This is the greatest thing he's ever seen.
He's a sucker for it.
Yeah. Idrian, who's the woman that's in charge of it, she's like, oh God, that guy in his fucking train, like I don't know if she's the best person for this job, or maybe just having her there, like filtering out all the crap is a good thing. I don't know, because she is unimpressed by any of this. She thinks everybody there making all this stuff are a bunch of idiots, wasting everybody's time. She's like, I don't even have to have philosophers and people in here. Like, this is all weird. It's weird to her. But anyway, she keeps a tight ship, so maybe that's a good thing.
She's a weapons lady. She invented this ballista that they used against the Shido when they were under siege in Cairn.
Yeah. She's an engineer. She's not too fond of these theoretical physicists that are wandering around.
But a war engineer. Action. She wants to see some weapons. Yeah. Show me something useful that I can use against the enemy.
Yeah, like the train. Like you can put the weapons on the back of the train.
Put a ballista on top of the steam wagon, and you got a tank.
There you go. She's,
problem is the steam wagon hasn't made 50 paces yet, so she can't see that.
It's not going great.
And in
just
all fairness,
run
when
into the enemy and it'll explode eventually.
When Rand saw the first model of it on the table, he thought it was a new type of music machine.
Yeah.
This is way off. All right, you never know. You start tinkering and then you create something you never even thought of. There you go. That's invention for you. Anyway, so he gives Toveine a document, and we have a new list of people that are going to be in charge of shit. Toveine is now steward in Cairn, so he's going to be in charge. Cairn is yours, my buddy. Take it. Darlin is the steward in Tyr, and Gregorin, good old Gregorin, I like that guy, is now in charge in Elayne.
Now, is Darlin named as the steward of Tyr yet or not? There's sort of like mystery around the third letter he has in his pocket. Maybe where you're up to if you've read ahead. But,
maybe I'm just spoilers for stealing someone else's
I wanted to ask the question during this discussion because it's not stated outright. And when Toveine sees the name, he's like, oh, him. And Rand gives him instruction to root him out and then go by his answer. If he says yes, then he is in charge. But he doesn't say anything about Tyr. He just says there's this other letter. And he says to Toveine quite pointedly, not you. Like you're not going to get whatever this thing is. So I thought it was Darlin. And you've confirmed that.
Yeah. Well, tis Darlin. All right. But I said I liked Gregorin because I was wondering, Gregorin and Toveine were with Rand during the Seanchan attacks, during the fights through the forests, right?
Not Toveine.
I know Gregorin was there. Toveine wasn't. Because he left him in charge of everything, of course.
He's been in Cairn since Colliver necked herself and Rand pissed off. And
but with all the traveling, like he could have popped in and out, within a few minutes,
No, but Gregorin was there.
It's hard. Okay. I remember him. Min is also there, mumbling under her breath, in Herod Fell's rooms, digging through all the manuscripts. She's read all the books she's got. She needs some new books. And she is having a whale of time looking for whatever she's looking for. Philosophy books, I imagine.
Just little more books.
She's just like going like, I grew up in a tiny, town, in a pub. No idea that I would have liked this kind of stuff, but now hooked on philosophy. She is now an intellectual. She's an academic. Rand's like, all right, fine. Now everybody's got their letters, and you've got your books. Let's travel. Opens a gateway, and they travel 500 miles away from Kyrian, where there are some horses miraculously waiting for them. And there's a lot of talk about it afterwards, like, who did he tell to leave the horses there, and why are they not stolen by random people walking through the forest who just saw 2 horses? Anyway, no one knows. The horses are there.
Toveine.
And they're Toveine. And the horses are also Toveine. and they're going to do something. She says, like, she tells, Min tells him, like, I see you. You're leaving all of these false trails for people, telling people you're going someplace, making this guy, giving all these letters, like just sowing chaos. That's what he does. He's the Lord of Chaos. So she's on to him, and he's like, yeah, you're pretty smart, and you're going to do something with that Sa'angreal. And he's like, what? And he goes, dude, you've got this thing wrapped up in like a leather sack that you keep touching and stroking and stuff. Like, it's pretty obvious, what you're up to. And
Careful now, Jody.
like,
the thing wrapped up in a leather sack that you keep stroking. In those ages could be anything.
I heard what I said after I said it. It was too late then. No turning back now. So she's like, what do you plan on doing with that? What's the plan you've got going here? And he just, again, easy as you like, replies that he intends to cleanse the male half of the source with this. But first, he's going to go and deal with some of these people who attacked him. Min's like, cool, let's go. No surprise. All right, so cleanse the source, kill some people. Gotcha. I've got some books for the journey. Let's go. That's basically all that happens in that part of the book. And that's the end of the... There's some more details there that I'm
Into
sure
the prologue.
Glossed over, that Moritz will pick out with the tweezers.
Maybe not too much. I just like how that sets up the book. Like, in the previous episode, when we recorded the previous episode, I'd already read this part, and that's what I was talking about when I was like, after the prologue, it sort of sets up the story, because we know that Rand cleanses Seaine towards the end of this book. And here he's like, he's setting off. He's like, he's putting everyone in place to run the countries. It's him and Min now, flying low profile, just the 2 of them, and they're going to go murder some dudes, and then they're going to go cleanse Seaine. Like, that's Rand. Like, he's telling you what he's going to do in this book, and it's awesome.
That's right. I suppose, like, the Aes Sedai in the tower, they're going to root out the Black Ajah. That's what they're doing this book. Elayne's going to solidify her claim. She's going to build her army. She's going to, make sure she's queen. Then Rand's going to go on his little mission, and
Farmadding.
You guys, all of that kind of stuff.
And of course, don't forget what we left off in the last book. A 200-yard span wide gateway opening in the siege beginning on the tower. There's that.
Yeah, Egwene's on a mission to take over the tower. Yeah, lots.
Good shit.
Everyone's poised for their massive missions. And then Matt's coming back, which we haven't read about at all.
Yeah.
So we'll see what he's up to.
Good times. I am so excited. Before we move on, though, I do have my little morsels that I will call out here. But, Vil, did you have anything you wanted to say about that last little section?
Nah, not too much. I mean, that's just really a setup of what we said. Rand getting his affairs, the day-to-day running of the business in order, so that he can go off gallivanting and murdering.
Yeah. When they're talking about like Aiel, Raiton, and Shalon being missing, someone thinks to themselves, how could she have taken them out unseen, and why? I think it's Min that's thinking, or is it Rand that's thinking it? Not knowing that Catsway now knows how to travel.
Yep. And she's not going to be telling anybody.
No.
That'll be her little secret.
Exactly. The crown that Min had seen Darlin wear is a strange crown, because Tyr hasn't been ruled by a king for so long, so no one would recognize the crown. But yeah, Min has seen him wear it, and we know that later he does become the king of Tyr. There's another reference here to the Sharans being people with their eyes in their bellies, and they being animals 10 feet tall with tusks as long as men. Another example of like craziness and then truth, but both just said as these outlandish things, and one of them being true and the other not.
What was that section about? That who was asking all the question about the Sharans?
I can't remember now.
Because I can't believe this wasn't discussed or summarized by all of us. But I mean, like people talking about Shara, wasn't it Rand asking questions about Sharans? It was asking the wise ones because like they have dealings.
When Rand is laying these false breadcrumbs about where he's setting false trails so that he can shake off anyone that might be following, he asks about Shara in Ruidian when he travels there. He asks about, I think, Chachin when he's here in Kyrian, which is a city in Kandor? Arrow.
Let me look at my map. Kandor, Arafel.
Chachin.
I don't see.
I don't know if it's a capital city or.
Oh, there it is. Yes, of Kandor. Capital Kandor. Yeah.
Here we go. That is the city where the scrolls of the strike at Shaiol Ghul, where canonically the scrolls were found in a chest in an attic or a basement in Chachin. This like half decayed old scroll, and it's the only account they have of that strike at Shaiol Ghul. It's the only place that anyone has ever found writings about. What was the female Aes Sedai leader that was someone Latrin Pose de Cume or something like that?
Very close, yes, something like that. Well, it's not the only copies. I have it in Word on my hard drive.
Okay. Oh, okay, cool. Problem solved. Never mind. Forget Chachin.
If anyone needs a copy.
But that's what Rand's doing. He's talking about cities in different places and always a different one to try and make people think he's going to do something.
Yeah, I like how there was mention again of going back to, I completely forgot about this, going back to Ruidian. Min went with him. And she was like, oh, cool. Like, I couldn't even see the other side of the lake. There's so much water. The city is bigger than Tar Valon itself.
Yeah.
Even though most of it's in ruin. It's like, oh, cool. Yeah, somebody's, people are living there and stuff is happening. And
at the academy, there's a person making hang gliders that's about to like throw themselves off a mountain again. That's pretty cool.
That Red Bull competition.
Yes. Lews Theron says to Rand in his mind, "We are not builders, you or I or the other one."
Yeah. Moradin. Has to be.
I just loved how Rand states outright, "I'm going to cleanse the male half of the source," and how Min doesn't even like really flinch at that.
Yeah, he says it. He's said it quite a few times now. Like he's getting used to just I've already told.
He's talking himself into it. Yeah. Well, I've said it now, so now I guess I'm doing it now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also just cool how Rand acknowledges that, like, when he starts this process, he's going to draw the attention of every channeler 1,000 miles away, right? Like, and he knows that there's going to be a need for backup. Which is exactly what happens.
This is going to be noticeable.
This is significant. But that's all coming. What is not coming is what we have just finished. And out of all of that, have you guys remembered to pick a favorite moment?
Yeah, I usually do.
Of course.
You usually do? What did you pick this time, Vol?
I'm liking that we're kicking off Loghain's story arc. Let's call it his redemption arc. That's for me. That's the thing, and seeing how he's operating at the moment. So a part of it that I'm gonna enjoy reading this time round.
Yeah, I'm ready to like him
all
more.
His friends are turned to the dark against their will.
Well, that just makes him even stronger and more resilient, right? Like as all the ones fall around him, he stays loyal and breaks the seal at the end.
A callback opportunity arising. Don't they try and actually get Loghain to? They try and turn him as well, but
I think
he's
so.
Rescued during it.
Yes.
Like something happens and he escapes it. Like he's downstairs and the Madrol are there and it's gonna happen, but he somehow escapes.
Yes. There's a whole plot about people getting captured. Andor gets captured, I think, and another Ashaman with him, and then the one is turned to and there's like a big escape plan. It's a whole other thing, like, which I'm so patchy on, even more than the classic stuff, like the older stuff. How about you, Joe? What's your favorite moment?
Sisters.
Okay.
Words make sentences.
Bond. First sisters.
Yes. There's the sister bonding, the first sister moment. I like that a lot. From the moment Nandera walks in, knowing that there's Ashaman and Windfinders and Dylan and Aes Sedai. Hey, you, come with me. Take off all your clothes. We're going. And Elayne's like, shit, let's do it.
But does it?
Yeah, and then an epic session of uber bonding and finally being first sisters. I liked it.
I'm glad it got given its time, like it wasn't just glossed over. It was significant.
There's a decent stretch of that massive prologue. And we're getting used to beefy prologues now, but that was very much the bulk of it.
Yeah.
I've got a honorable mention to the stubbornness of the two of us men being brought up yet again. It's just every time that comes up, I'm like, oh yeah.
It's like the defining feature.
We've beaten that rock to lime already, but still.
Netherlands.
Yeah. It is great. My favorite moment is the fact that Elayne wants to have Nynaeve as the official advisor to the Queen of Andor, which is going to be her. I just thought that was such a massive show of respect, and like knowing how difficult Nynaeve can be, like still wanting her there, like counting her as such a close friend and confidant, and someone that she can obviously trust, right? Like all the shit they've gone through, to have someone at that level that you can trust completely with your life is pretty cool. It doesn't hurt that Nynaeve is fucking badass as well. It's pretty fucking powerful and can take down Forsaken. So yeah, good to have her at your side. I had an honorable mention as well. Oh, you got another one?
No, I've got a not favorite moment. Rand still not having gone to visit Elayne at this point.
Min's with you. She also thinks it's an idiot.
Yeah, it doesn't sit well
talk
with
to
me.
her. No, she's turned her back on me. It's for the best. Yeah, wise up, Rand. I also had an honorable mention, Vil. I loved how Dylan is sort of like cool as a cucumber. She's got her shit together, and she does a full blown, like eyes wide red wine spit take when Elayne says she wants Birgitte to raise an army big enough to match any 10 houses that combine their forces in the field. Then Dylan's like, red wine everywhere.
You've been hanging out with Rand too much.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Alrighty then. To our listeners, send us your favorite moments, your theories, your clarifications, your ponderings on the metaphysics of the One Power, anything at all. You can do that using the social media links in the episode description, which includes my email address, our X tag at Blood and Ash Pod, and our website, bloodandashespodcast.com, where you can leave a voice message just like Scott Wilson. When you've done all of that, review the podcast on your favorite podcast app and bought a t-shirt from our website, you can prepare for next time on Blood and Ashes, where we will cover chapters 1 through to the end of chapter 5.
Ooh, fiver.
Yeah, these chapters are short.
They are. I generally pick the chapters based on how many pages they are. There's a range that I keep us in to sort of like limit the content. And these 5 chapters actually fit within the with what we usually cover. Now, Vil, I hadn't actually put 2 and 2 together yet because I've done this chapter allocation before I read the chapter allocations at the start of this episode where all the characters are. And you're right, like if we had done the first 6 chapters of the book, it would be the entire Perrin Aiel section of the whole book. It would probably push us into quite a long episode, but if you guys wanted to go that way, you'd each have 3 chapters to do.
That would be a lengthy, long push. That chapter 6, the scent of madness. I mean, Who could that be?
Okay, cool. No,
So-
we'll leave it. We'll leave it. We won't mess with the formula this time. I mean, sometimes the chapter splits actually work really well. It's weird how they align, but we won't take this one. We'll stick to the 5.
It'll be a good recap just to deal with the scent of madness after that one.
Yes. Oh yes, remember this. Now forget about it for the rest of the book.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, well, if we're going to move on, then I will say to both of you gentlemen, my first sisters, sleep well and wake.
Sure will. Adios.
May you find shade in water.
May the lotto numbers fall in your favor.